bad things have to happen for us to grow and to recover as a society. And the resolution that has been proposed to us is this house would burn the village to save it. And we're going to be looking at the resolution, first of all, analyzing the resolution, giving you some points of explanation to really interpret this resolution, to explain it to you. The first point under resolutional analysis is that this is a policy resolution. We're saying this because it would burn the village. This is a policy resolution because it's asking us to take some type of action. Now, the second point under resolution analysis is that of the interpretation. And there's a few different points of interpretation under this. The first being that of house. And the house will be defined by the government team as the United States federal government. So far it would say this, the United States federal government would burn the village to save it. The second point under this is that we're going to be defining the word burn. And we're defining the word burn as literally, and we're going to say burn actually means to burn the village. The third point under this is that of village, and we're defining village as Sealand. Now, Sealand is the smallest country in this world. Sealand is in a really minuscule country, and we're going to be burning Sealand to save it as the United States federal government. With that being said, let's look to the plan. The plan, first of all, is that the United States federal government will burn Sealand. Again, the United States government will burn Sealand. We'll be giving you reasons why this is a good thing and that it will save the Sealand and their island later on. The second point under this, the second mandate, is that we will be evacuating the island so that there won't be people on the island, of course, but we will still be saving it due to the fact that we will increase revenue. Now, the agency and enforcement is that of the United States federal government, as specified under the House. The funding will be the budget of the United States federal government. And with that being said, let's look to some solvency. Actually, let's look to the advantages before we get into the solvency. Advantage number one is that we're increasing donations and revenue. Again, increasing donations and revenue. Now, we're going to be looking to empirical success here to prove to you how it will actually increase revenue for Sealand and for the citizens that return. Subpoint A is empirical success. Now, Jacob Sheo, who was an expert on Sealand and had actually made an expository speech last year about Sealand, had said in 2006, Sealand was actually burned. And the increase in donations was so high that their island actually had an extreme amount of revenue to buy supplies for their own country. And that actually helped their country quite a bit. I believe he said it was around $2 trillion, and that actually increased their societal benefit by quite a bit. But your question?
Just a point of personal preference. It's actually Lord Baron-Shao of Sealand.
Lord Baron-Shao? Lord Baron-Shao. Shao, okay. Subpoint B under this is that of increased revenue. And we're going to be looking to how it does increase revenue. Right now, Sealand is in poverty. They have spent all the money that we have given them, and basically countries have donated their money. They've wasted that money already. And I believe it's best for us to actually burn their island to increase more revenue. Impact under this is that we are saving their island, as specified under the resolution that this village, or that this house would burn the village to save it. We would be saving it by increased revenue and donations to their country. The second point under this is that we're actually also going to be increasing relations between the United States by also burning their island. The second advantage is that we're increasing airline popularity. Again, increasing airline popularity. Now, the way this happens is that the United States federal government will have United States airline companies letting these people evacuate from the island. There's quite a few people on the island. This will gain popularity in the media, and this will increase revenue for those airline companies. Subpoint A under this is increased United States revenue. Again, increased United States revenue. Our economy will gain in the United States. Sealand will gain because they gain revenue from donations, and that increases basically the entire relationship, which we will see in the subpoint B. But you disagree.
I don't disagree. I just have a question. Where are you taking these people?
To the moon. Subpoint B is that of increased relations, and under increased relations is that when we burn their island, we will have better relations because our economy will benefit, their economy will benefit, and basically it all works out. The impact under this is that it promotes Sealand, and that in this way we are also saving the island. And so we've proven to you now through two different ways. Number one, that we're increasing donations for their country. Number two, that we're increasing United States economic benefit. And thus, we're increasing relations with Sealand, and that will actually benefit Sealand as well. And that's another way we can save it. Now let's look to some solvency under this. And some solvency can be found under the first point, but your question first of all.
Sorry, which company are you using specifically?
To do what?
To like transport them out, and also to burn the village.
United States federal government military. First on is that of gasoline, and it's under this point is that under this point of gasoline, we'll be looking to an expert, Trevor House in 2015. He said gasoline is actually one of the quickest and cheapest way to actually eliminate ground and like soil and nature. And this is how we're going to be using it. We're going to be using gasoline. This is how we're burning sea land. The second point on this is that of Pompeii. Jack Anderson actually told us at this point, but your question first of all again.
Are you taking their personal property with them too when they evacuate so they can have like their teddy bear and their cup of coffee?
Sure. Second point is that of Pompeii. Jack Anderson said this. He said this is a great example because when we had burned Pompeii, now we see that there is benefit to them. Their island is totally fine. Their country in that area is totally fine. And it's for these reasons when we look back to the resolution that this House would burn the village to save it, that we believe this will absolutely happen if we, as the United States federal government, burn sea land, we evacuate the island with the United States government's military. The advantage is that of increased donations and revenue, which will save the island. We've seen empirical success in 2006. And then the second point, the second advantage is that we increase airline popularity in the United States. That increases economic benefit in the economy in the United States, which increases relations and which also saves the island because all we're doing is promoting their reputation throughout the world and globally. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Lord Baron Jacob Shaw once said, "I would rather have my body burn than my home burn." That's an important quote from one of the actual barons of Sealand. This is ultimately going to be the reason why we stand against burning Sealand and destroying a home that they most desperately need. I'm also going to be changing my tone a little bit and also claiming that they're also terrorists. We'll leave this two different ways. So here's my other intro I wanted to start with. We've looked at Kim Jong-un and the dictatorship over Iran, and we've seen them as our biggest threat, but we've missed the biggest threat to the United States. That of Sealand. So those are my two intros. We're going to see how those matter in this round. Let's start on their mandates really quick. Before I get into responding to their advantages and some awesome disadvantages, not to mention the cheese market will implode. I'll explain that later. Yes.
First of all, Lord Baron Jacob Shaw.
Shoe. Okay. Let's look at mandate. I'd like to point out we have mandate 1, which is burn sea land, and mandate 2 is evacuate. They're evacuating after they burn them. So they're only transporting the burned people. And I'd like to point out that their solvency point showed how effective gasoline is at burning. So anything that's on sea land will burn. So they're actually not going to save the people. They're burning them. So you can tag this impact as like millions of people died because we don't actually know how many people are on sea land, but it is a nation, so they probably have millions of people. So let's look at Advantage 1. Under Advantage 1, we actually accept that they would bring in trillions of dollars for sea land, but let's look to the impact of this. Now the impact is that of saving sea land, but this is where my second intro comes in, because actually they're a terrorist nation who threatens the very national security of the United States and Swedish mercenaries. So the first point here is that of tons of weapons. Like right now, they actually have tons of weapons, and they actually had mercenaries come on there last time, and one dude took down 14 mercenaries. He made them surrender. So if one dude took down 14 mercenaries, I don't want to see what happens if the entire country gets weapons. And that's the second point, that of giving money for weapons. Ultimately, there's no restrictions on where this money goes. They'll probably spend it on weapons, and that's the third point is that of probably alcohol. These guys are obviously crazy because they've taken over their own little country. They aren't sane. They're probably going to spend it on